And welcome in the day after the Egg Bowl as, of course, David Johnson and I at the Red and Blue Crew podcast come to you. Brought to you by our good friends at the Velvet Ditch and the Land Shark, two great locations in Oxford. Hey, David, I saw Lance out with Sugar the dog yesterday, and they were enjoying the Egg Bowl. And I think the caption was, not much of a game, but we're enjoying it out here at the Velvet Ditch. The Rebels win big over Mississippi State. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Lane Kiffin as we come to you as I'm looking at game day. Being played right now, the most disingenuous people I've ever seen talking about the scenario. We'll get into it. But, David, I want to start with the game in and of itself. Ole Miss kind of took the game over in the second half, and Mississippi State, while I think they've got a gem in Kamario Taylor, they just did not have the horses for Ole Miss.
No, they did not. You could see State slowly running out of gas as late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, as Ole Miss pulled away, ended up dominating this game. You go, okay, well, they didn't beat them by that much, but Georgia didn't beat Georgia Tech by that much. Texas A&M lost to Texas. It was rivalry day. And, if you're Ole Miss, you can only hope that tonight's Iron Bowl between Alabama and Auburn played down on the plains, a very difficult place to play. It follows the same script. And if Auburn upsets Alabama due to the Egg Bowl win yesterday and Texas beating Texas A&M, Ole Miss would play in its first ever SEC championship game against the Georgia Bulldogs. And, an 8-point loss to Georgia in Athens earlier this year, where Ole Miss blew a 9-point lead in the fourth quarter. Guys, I'll take it. I want to play in the SEC title game.
I think you and I are the only two people that want to play in it, David.
You know what, though? They didn't hold losses against conference champions last year.
No, and they're not going to hold losses on this.
That's
what I keep telling people.
Yeah, let's go play the game. Let's make more history. And on a neutral field, I think you could beat the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah.
I really and truly do. Where I feel sorry for Ole Miss fans is, okay, if you're in the SEC title game, that costs money to go to. And if you lose, maybe you're on the road in the first round. That's going to cost money. And then after that is bowl games, which are going to cost money. My prediction on all of this is that there are going to be a lot of Ole Miss fans that are going to take out second mortgages on their homes so they can follow this team. A lot of people won't have to do that. Some people will. I would be one of them. I got to be honest with you. I'm not sitting on $1 million. So, that kind of gets expensive, but who cares? This is history. We are making history. Now, the flip side to all of that, and you know what it is, and I know everybody knows what it is today at some point, we're going to find out if Lane Kiffin will even be coaching this team in an SEC title game or the college football playoffs, or if he's packing his bags and on an LSU Twitter tomorrow. We don't know. Here it is. It's approaching 11 a.m. We don't know. And what time, Brad, I want to ask you this. What time do you think we will know today?
Well, Marty Smith reported this morning that it would be at some point this afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah. So he said that Lane and his family went on hot yoga this morning. And I talked to Marty yesterday in Starkville, and he told me that he was going to Oxford today. And sure enough, he was on game day from the facility in Oxford. So I knew he would be reporting from there. So I kind of expected that update to come this morning. And sure enough, Marty said that it would be this afternoon. I think he's going to LSU. And there are reasons behind that. But the main reasons I'll say is, the tone of the national media has shifted, and specifically the mouthpieces for CAA, which is represented, obviously Jimmy Sexton is the representative for this. You've got Herb Street, you've got Saban that just talked about how he should be able to coach through the playoffs and just making all the excuses making Keith, saying this is what Ole Miss. With all due respect to Kirk Herbstreit and Nick Saban, stay in your own lane. because we've
Yeah,
got it
exactly.
covered here in Oxford.
Look,
Keith
look.
Carter's done a great job.
Wait a
And
minute.
so Keith and Dr. Boyce, who I talked to yesterday, neither of them are going to let Ole Miss get run over. I promise you that.
Yeah, didn't Nick Saban fire Lane Kiffin?
He did.
Wouldn't let him coach
Well, that's right. He didn't want it to be a
yeah.
distraction. But I guess a couple of years later, Nick, it's different now, huh? It's just different because you have a different thought process. No, it's
Mhm.
not different. He's being fed information, and that's what this is all about. So,
Well, Brad,
whoever cashes the check, right?
the underneath side of all of this is, and away from TV, is that if Lane Kiffin is coaching your team through the playoffs and he's accepted the head coaching job at LSU, he is then effectively recruiting for LSU.
Mm-hmm.
And look, if he's doing that, don't think for a second he won't work on flipping Ole Miss commits to LSU. And I don't know. I don't know if he's staying or going. I do not know. Um, it is a professional career choice. I'm not going to call him a hoe, but I just don't know what he's going to do. He's got great options, and that should be a credit to how he has built his career, resurrected it, and you know, congrats to him. Knox lost the playoff game last night. Oxford lost the playoff game, not Knox. He played well. So Oxford is done playing football this year. So that's not a distraction. That one's been removed. Um, I don't know what he's going to do, but you feel as if he's going to LSU because the national media seems to be knocking down some doors, laying some red carpet for him to make that announcement.
That's what I think. And
Okay.
you know, I mean, I know you were referencing the hoe thing. I mean that was just Ben referencing a particular rap song. He did not call Lane Kiffin a hoe, but Lane decided to go after Ben on the field and made a huge spectacle out of it. And nobody benefits from anything like that. I
Yeah,
think
and
you know.
to Ben's credit, I've seen a lot of things about you look like a deer in the headlight on the Twitter feed and all that stuff.
I mean,
But
did they want Ben to punch him
yeah, I mean, with
with
how
three
much,
patrolmen around it?
yeah. Okay, so, but to Ben's credit, Ben nutted up and asked him a question and defended himself in the press conference.
Yeah,
I didn't call you a hoe, but the way you've handled things the last couple of weeks, don't you think that warrants some level of criticism? And Lane looked at him and said, I don't even know your name. And Kyle Campbell, you could hear in the background, he kind of jumped in and said, let's move on to the next question, which is doing his job, I suppose. But I
yeah.
just
I want to talk, David. I want to talk about the press conference just a second since you brought
yeah,
that up. Let's
go
talk
right
about
ahead.
it.
Go right ahead.
Ole Miss is 11-1. They're playing in the college football playoff. No doubt about it. I don't know where they're going to be, whether they're hosting on the road. They've got a chance of playing the SEC championship. A better than 50% chance now, David, because if Auburn beats Alabama, we saw Texas beat A&M. And I agree with you. You and I have been lockstep in that. I think Ole Miss should play in it. I think it's good. I think it's history making. You and I are completely agreeing on that. That entire press conference, you watched it. Um, there was nothing celebrated.
No, not a thing. Not a thing.
It felt like a funeral wake. Now, Lane's pressers are not normally just bombastic
Yeah,
and
they're not
overjoyed with
celebrating.
emotion. I get that. I mean, I understand that. And especially in Oxford, they have fans in the press room and that sort of thing. That's another story. But they're much more jovial and like it was not like that. It was but I do want to give Lane credit though because he did not sidestep anything. He was much more honest. He was much more open. I posted on social media this past Tuesday, and it went crazy, and I got called everything, and I got called out by a lot of people. But the reason I did that is I was like, just be honest, man. Make a decision because you're holding the school hostage. You're holding the players hostage. You're holding the fans hostage. And I meant that. I stand behind that. And it's the first time I've ever just went vocal with it and went public with my opinion. And I got a lot
Well,
of feedback, both positive and negative, from all over the world. At the end of the day, I felt like he was like that in the press conference. I cannot knock that. I thought he was very open. I wondered where that had been all year. And that's in jest what Ben was saying is just a roundabout way of getting there. And there was nothing happy about that press conference, David, and that's what was so telling to me.
I watched the Egg Bowl yesterday with a retired high level CEO from a national company. And we were certainly talking, and a Mississippi State alum. Let me say that. We were certainly talking throughout the game. And he told me, he said, if I had one of my employees come to me the day before they were given a deadline to make a decision and tell me they didn't know, he said, I would fire them. And he said, I've done that before. And I get that point of view. I mean, here you are, you're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar football organization, and you're 24 hours away or so from reaching a deadline of where you have to let your employer know if you're staying or going, and you're on national television saying, I don't know. What do you not know? Where is your decision-making process at this point? And I get it. It's a tough decision. But what do you not know at this point? What don't you know? You don't know the outcome of tonight's Alabama-Auburn game, so you don't know if you're in the SEC title game or not. That's really the only thing you don't know in this scenario. As you said, you're in the playoffs. There is no way you're not going to the playoffs. Now, you ought to be at home. If you lose the SEC title game, you may drop out of the top 8 and you may have to go on the road. But you're still in the field. They're not going to remove you. So, and really and truly, I don't think Lane Kiffin's status is that big of a factor, whether he's here or somewhere else. But I don't think he can be coaching here and coach the Rebels in the postseason. I just think Ole Miss would be doing itself a huge disservice on the back end of things, not on the coaching end of things, because Lane wants to win a national title worse than anybody. But on the back end of things, on the recruiting end of things, don't think for a second he's not going to try to take a lot of your players and bring a lot of your commitments with him to Baton Rouge if he, in fact, leaves Ole Miss.
And he would not be doing his job, David, if he did not try to do that.
Correct. And therefore, you can't continue to pay him to do that job. All right, so you got to think about this too. If he's immediately shown the door today, how many of his assistants are given the opportunity to go with him and they immediately leave as well?
Yeah.
You're going to give Joe Judge the interim job if he stays. Who's going to be his O-line coach? Who's his running backs coach? Who's his wide receivers coach? Who's his defensive coordinator? I mean, I'm just asking, because that is another side of this that is very well at play here. I mean, who coaches this team, Brad?
I think Joe Judge does. And for people that think that Ole Miss
he
is just
can't do everything. He can't do it all.
Yeah. I think for people that think that Ole Miss is just going to roll over and allow Lane to have his way, I will say this. Lane told Marty Stewart this morning that once he finished with yoga, he was coming back and meeting with the staff and getting ready for Georgia in case they played them in the SEC championship game. Now, is that just the right thing to say, or is that what he's really going to do? I think Lane wants to go to LSU, David. I think he badly wants to coach at LSU, but I also think he does not want to leave an 11-1 playoff team for a chance to win a national championship. I'll make this argument, David. I'll put Ole Miss against anybody in the country right now, maybe other than Ohio State. I think Ole Miss has the best running back in the country in Kejuan Lacey. I think Ole Miss has the best story in quarterback Trinidad Chambliss from D2 Ferris State. And most importantly, I think Ole Miss has the best wide receiving core in the country.
Well,
and he's leaving that if that's what he wants to do.
Well, and here's something else too. Ole Miss has a great offensive line, Brad. Nobody talks about the O-line unless they suck.
I agree with that. That's a good
point. They are kicking the ass of some really good SEC defensive fronts. And they have gelled. They have come together. They're playing as a unit. And to that, John Garrison should get the credit. because he's done a great job recruiting and a great job putting this line together. And, there's some guys. Look, Brad, I'll throw this out too. If Lane Kiffin stays, I think Ole Miss has an outside shot to be ranked number one in the preseason for the 2026 year. I mean, because the talent that would be coming back is amazing, absolutely amazing. And we haven't even gotten into the portal yet of who else he could bring in, the class coming in. I think they've got an outside shot, certainly a top 5 team. I mean, why do you walk away from that?
I don't
Particularly
know.
when we all know the job he would kill for is the Alabama job, which is likely not coming open this year. Um, Kalen DeBoer is one win away from playing in the SEC championship game. So I just a very confusing situation. It's been a confusing last month. Today we should have finality, and I that's where I'm at. My phone is blowing up like crazy. I see you're reading text too, and
It's going absolutely insane.
yeah. I mean, and I've got 3 words. I say I don't know.
I
I
cannot tell you how many times I've written the words I don't know.
yeah.
I cannot tell you. Last
And
night, David, you'll appreciate this. So I'm editing all of my video that I posted. And I can't thank the Velvet Ditch and the Land Shark and you and all of my sponsors on the Logan Media Network, specifically J&J Apparel. I can't thank everybody enough. It's been an incredible year, and I'm so grateful for that. So I'm sitting there at the table editing my stuff. I had to turn my phone upside down because it was dinging so much. And Chris Lowe from On Three was legitimately sitting across the table from me. And as you know, David, Chris Lowe from On Three is as close to Lane Kiffin as anybody.
well, he's
And
his national mouthpiece. That's
yeah,
what he is.
well, I handed my phone to Chris. I was like, Chris, can you answer any of these? He said, Brad, I don't know. I don't know. So
But
if he
he
doesn't
won't be
know, then
the
who knows?
yeah, he'll be the first one to know. I would bet my car that Chris Lowe breaks this. Um, but who knows? I mean, Chris is now working for On Three and not ESPN, so maybe Marty breaks it. I don't know, but he's here on the ground. Um, Ben Garrett won't break it. I don't believe, not today. And I
You
love,
look at this
I love
Ole
my
Miss
boy.
football program right now and where it stands. I think two things can be true. One, you could be really frustrated that Lane is so uncommittal. You could be really frustrated that Lane, in my opinion, wants to coach at LSU. You could be really frustrated that Lane's got 1 foot out the door. But one thing you cannot be frustrated is at the level of where this job is. And it's where it is because of Lane Kiffin. It's where it
100.
is because of how well he's recruited the portal, how well he's galvanized Walker Jones in the NIL collective, how he's been at the forefront of the transfer portal. All of that is true. So at the end of the day, he may go to LSU and he may leave this team. But I can promise you, as long as Dr. Boyce and Keith Carter are in charge, I truly believe that John Sumrall is legitimately waiting for Lane Kiffin to take the LSU job because I think he would be the first person to walk through the door. I would be interested at the transition between John and the SEC championship game or the playoff, how that would all work with Joe Judge. My guess, nobody's telling me this is just my guess, is that Joe Judge would take them through the playoff. John Sumrall would coach Tulane through their whatever their playoff run or whatever, and then the transition would happen after that. To me, that's the smoothest. What is not the smoothest is Lane still waffling, taking the LSU job and coaching Ole Miss all the way through. Then you're punting your 26th season. And I know for a fact, because everybody I spoke to yesterday, Ole Miss is not going to punt the 26th season, David. You know that, and I know that.
Yeah, that's why Keith Carter wisely gave him a deadline of today.
Yeah.
And we're going to know something today, or yeah, if Lane sits there quietly and doesn't say anything, does he force Carter's hand? Does he force Boyce and Carter to do something? I mean, there are all kind of things at play here. Florida putting pressure on John Sumrall because they want an answer before they kick off today, before Tulane kicks off.
Yeah.
So, John looking at Twitter just like we are, waiting to see, where this thing is going to break because John wants the Ole Miss job. not the Florida job. And I can say that with pretty good confidence there. You know, I just, I don't know, today is going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of crumbling up paper and trying to shoot them in the basket and looking at Twitter and, seeing what's going on. But I don't think anybody in the media knows. As of right now, nobody knows. Um, I hope Lane Kiffin stays. I've seen from my own eyes how he's built this program in the years he's been here. The 6 years he's been here, going on 6, they've been wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I've seen how the city of Oxford has grown because of the super interest in Ole Miss football. I've seen how the student body has grown to over 27,000 students now, Brad. 27,000. Because, in large part, the success of the football program. He's worth every penny that he will be paid by here or wherever else he goes. But I just don't look. I think when NIL came into play, the complexion of college football changed drastically. These old traditional powers are all of a sudden finding people that are working NIL deals, know how to do it. And I think that's Lane Kiffin's strongest suit is, man, they know how to build a roster, he and his staff. It's not the same as it was 10 years ago. It's just not the same. I mean, look at all these programs that have fallen off, that are no longer dominant. And look at the new ones that have arrived on the scene. And you can include Ole Miss in that, certainly, but you can include Vanderbilt in that. I mean, you can look at Mississippi State and see how quickly, I realize they went 5-7, didn't go to a bowl game, but how quickly Jeff Lebby has got the Bulldogs turning things around. Everybody in Power 4 has plenty of roster money now, particularly SEC teams with the TV deal and the money they can allocate towards NIL. So, and look, you've got the master guy. I realize everybody thinks Lane is a master play caller, and he is. He truly is. But where he is most effective, Brad, is sitting down in a room and going, I need this and I need that and I need this guy and this guy and this guy, and allocating the funds towards big positions. Where would this team be without Kewan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss this year? Both portal acquisitions. I mean, and they dug as far as Ferris State in Division II to find Trinidad Chambliss, who is now an SEC superstar and ought to be talked about more in the Heisman Trophy race. So, that's what you lose if you lose Lane Kiffin. I mean, personality quirks aside, I don't care about those. It's about a winning football program, winning games, watching Oxford build itself up because of football, watching the student population burst. I mean, Oxford is like driving in New York City now. There's traffic everywhere. I mentioned on our last podcast, there are now 3 downtown areas of Oxford: Jackson Avenue, the Square, and then the new area out on Sisk, which is growing like crazy. I mean, real estate through the roof here in Oxford. You couldn't ask for more. And they're steadily pouring in, breaking enrollment numbers. That's what's at stake. And I can put up with Twitter trolling. That doesn't bother me. Go right ahead, Lane. I mean, doesn't bother me at all. It's kind of funny. Somebody told me this. It's kind of like you bought a 16-year-old with a hot rod that keeps driving by your house, revving his engine up. That's all Lane is on Twitter. He's just trolling things left and right. I'm fine with that. Who cares? Who cares? Much better than having a boring coach who never got on Twitter. I enjoy his commentary. He obviously doesn't enjoy others' commentary as much, particularly when it's aimed at him. But, I hope he stays for the good of Ole Miss, for the good of Oxford, for the good of the Ole Miss fan base, I hope Lane Kiffin turns LSU down. I don't have knowledge of what he's going to do, but I have hope of what I want him to do.
We'll have full coverage for you, and I haven't told this to David, but I'll tell him now. As soon as we hear something from Lane, we'll do our best to get that information to you as soon as we can. We're all on Lane Kiffin watch, and I agree with David. I think the best case scenario is that somehow they come to an agreement to coach the remainder of the year, to coach next year, and Lane Kiffin stay at Ole Miss. If not, you have to rip the Band-Aid off. And I think David and I are in agreement on that. Could not do what we do without our friends at the Land Shark. Jared Foster, his entire team do a wonderful job at the Land Shark and the Velvet Ditch right off the square in Oxford. It was bumping yesterday. It'll be bumping today, and it's always bumping. The Velvet Ditch, your go-to spot in Oxford for the best food, the most fun, and the best place to watch a game. I want to say a special thank you to John O'Reed and the Dirt Doctor, and then Philip Hearn, who does a great job at the Hearn Law Firm. For any law need, call Philip Hearn today, and he'll take care of you in any type of legal need that you have. For David Johnson, I'm Brad Logan. We'll talk to you soon as Lane Watch continues right here on the Red and Blue Crew Podcast.
Going to the playoffs. Hotty toddy.